К сожалению, год за годом эта резолюция отходит от своей первоначальной цели, наполняясь неоднозначными, порой конфронтационными концепциями, которые не имеют прямого отношения ни к выборам, ни к оказанию содействия в их проведении со стороны ООН. Мы пытались балансировать эту резолюцию в ходе переговоров и представляя поправку, которая, к сожалению, не прошла. В этой связи, а также ввиду того, что не имеющие универсального признания на международном уровне, такие как сексуальная ориентация и гендерная идентичность, остались в тексте, мы просим проголосовать эту резолюцию и вынуждены будем воздержаться.
This tension-filled meeting is a result of the facilitators' unjustifiable approach to closing paragraphs that received a number of objections in the previous adoption round in 2021. If there had been no intention to hijack the subject of democracy and elections to impose non-agreed language, then all countries' positions should have been respected and taken into account in a balanced manner. Iran reiterates its principal position on objecting to any non-consensus-based and controversial language included in the UN documents that lacks any common understanding among the member states.
Those amendments were an honest attempt to reach a text that can be supported by all member states on a crucial issue, as was the case prior to 2021. We reject any assertions that the amendments were hostile, as the paragraphs of concern were deliberately not opened for discussion.
Pour réitérer notre opposition à l'utilisation de certains termes non consensuels, notamment l'orientation sexuelle et l'identité de genre. Ma délégation voudrait souligner que pour elle, le concept genre ainsi que toutes les notions qui lui sont associées font référence uniquement aux rapports sociaux entre l'homme et la femme, conformément à notre législation nationale. Ma délégation regrette que plusieurs demandes ont été faites auprès de la délégation facilitatrice pour ouvrir le texte.
While we support the aim of this resolution, we note with regret inclusion of some terminologies that are not enjoy consensus in the wider membership of the UN. We view the promotion of sexual orientation and gender identity as a tool to advance highly controversial ideological agenda that disregard the national laws, values, and customs of a large number of the United Member States.
Твердая и последовательная позиция Беларуси о необходимости использования в тексте документов ООН согласованной терминологии хорошо известно. Использование в резолюциях только консенсусных формулировок рассматривается нами как условие, необходимое для сохранения хрупкого баланса интересов всех делегаций. Результаты голосования по поправкам, с автором которых выступила Беларусь, говорят сами за себя. В очередной раз очевидно, что в вопросе гендерной проблематики консенсуса нет, а настойчивое навязывание делегациям определенной гендерной идеологии вносит раскол в работу Генеральной Ассамблеи.
We find it deeply concerning that attempts by some member states to introduce the notion of sexual orientation and gender identity, which is neither universally accepted nor legally accurate under any international law.
We express regret regarding the inclusion of sexual orientation and gender identity in operative paragraph 7 of the current resolution, despite the persistent objection from numerous delegations. These terms lack international consensus and widely accepted legal meaning due to their inherent ambiguity and subjective nature. My delegation will not endorse any interpretation of this term that encompasses concepts not recognized in our national laws and policies. I thank you, Chair.
لهذه المصطلحات والتي لا تتماشى مع القوانين والتشريعات الوطنية للجمهورية اليمنية والقيم الدينية والثقافية للمجتمع. ونؤكد على الرغم من تصويت بلادي لصالح هذا القرار إلا أننا ننأى بأنفسنا من اللغات الخلافية التي تم الإشارة إليها سابقا، ولا يعكس تصويت بلادنا لصالح مشروع هذا القرار قبولنا لإدراج هذه المصطلحات الغير توافقية في وثائق الأمم المتحدة.
Nous réaffirmons que les notions d'orientation sexuelle et d'identité de genre ne sont pas codifiées dans le droit international des droits de l'homme. Par conséquent, nous nous en dissocions en ce sens que ni le droit conventionnel ni la coutume internationale ne soutiennent l'idée que...
But unfortunately, since the 76th UNGA session, the draft resolution started to focus on some non-internationally agreed concepts, which are not in line with our cultural and social values.
We strongly oppose the inclusion of these contentious terms of a fluid and subjective character that are not internationally agreed and, more importantly, do not align with our national legislations. Therefore, we do not accept them.
Mindful that there is no one single model for democracy and reaffirming the necessity of the full respect of sovereignty, Sudan co-sponsored and voted in favor of the amendments. However, since these languages are inserted despite calling for its deletion, we declare our disassociation from the above-mentioned paragraphs.
عبارات متعلقة بالجوانب الجنسية والهوية والميول الجنسانية فهي عبارات جدلية غير متفق عليها عالميا ولم تحظى بتوافق كامل من بين أعضاء الأمم المتحدة وغير متفق عليها وغير منصوص عليها في قوانين الكثير من الدول، ونحن لا ننظر إلى هذا القرار وتلك العبارات الواردة فيه إلا بما يتماشى مع تشريعاتنا الإسلامية وهويتنا وقيمنا الاجتماعية والثقافية وقوانيننا وسيادتنا الوطنية.
If you build something on a weak foundation, it will fall, period. And this is when and where they fall. They have exposed themselves with this resolution. Their practices, their acts, they isolated themselves. They ignored the written comments sent from certain member states. They ignored it, didn't even mention it in the text. Again, all of this is uncommon, but expected from the main sponsors. But I don't think that's why they lost here. The vote on the whole resolution, it was a shock for some. But we believe that this is a normal consequences for the act. This is the ordinary repercussions of the acts and practices that we have witnessed when we were negotiating the draft. And as long as some might keep proceeding with the same approach, they will reach the same conclusion. When the chair said that the vote was, again, requested on the text, some were shocked. But I don't know why. What we have witnessed today is a kind reminder that here we are all equal. We all have concerns. If we don't take aboard all of those concerns, no one will survive.
My delegation finds it regrettable that the text includes ambiguous and contentious terminology related to diversity in PP10. Similarly, the reference to adolescent girls in PP21 blurs the lines between childhood and adulthood, disregarding the different rights and protections to which each are entitled. With respect to OP7, my delegation regrets the retention of the reference to sexual orientation and gender identity, while firmly condemning all forms of unjust discrimination and reaffirming the equal dignity of every human person. The Holy See stresses that the concepts of sexual orientation and gender identity lack definitions under international law and do not enjoy consensus. In this regard, my delegation understands that sexual orientation is not independent from personal sexual identity. For these reasons, we profoundly regret that the retention of such language, without the possibility to further discuss it, prevented the achievement of consensus around this text. Finally, the Holy See is obliged to make the following reservation on the text adopted. With reference to gender, the Holy See understands the term to be grounded in the biological sexual identity and difference, that is male or female.
أتشرف بإلقاء هذا البيان نيابة عن وفود دول مجلس التعاون لدول الخليج العربية، وفيما يتعلق بالفقرة العاملة السابعة من نص القرار ما تتناوله من لغة خلافية لا تتوافق مع تشريعاتنا الوطنية وقيمنا الثقافية والمجتمعية، فإن دولنا تعرب عن تحفظها على هذه الفقرة وغيرها من الإشارات إلى اللغات الخلافية.
It is to be noted that Egypt, on behalf of the member states of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, except for Albania, Suriname and Guyana, has submitted amendments to the said text in order to preserve consensus on this important resolution. In this connection, my delegation reiterates its rejection of the undemocratic imposition of non-consensus language in the text, expresses its persistent objection to the references made to in all their diversity and to sexual orientation and gender identity, and accordingly reaffirms its dissociation from PP10, PP12 and OP7. In addition, we regret that the resolution failed to reflect the legal parameters governing the exercise of the right to freedom of expression, as stipulated in Articles 19 and 20 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. The United Nations represents the collective will of the membership, And it should be guided by what is agreed upon by member states, not by imposition of undefined and unagreed upon references.
The United States would like to thank the additional 9 yes votes here in this plenary, that over 80% of this membership supports this resolution. And we also just correct the record on some of the statements that we've heard. We'll also note that some of the language in question was introduced 2 years ago when it was adopted by consensus. And also this year again, the introducers of the amendments related to the language, as we're hearing, did not put the resolution to a vote. A resolution was not put to a vote over those amendments by those delegations. And then finally, as well, some of the language, including in all their diversity, enjoys long-standing consensus even beyond this resolution as well. Even the delegations that have taken the floor to disassociate, many of whom already voted in favor of this resolution as well. So we think that over 80% speaks for itself as well, and we still consider this consensus. Thank you.
With regard to the statement made by our distinguished colleague from the United States, I would like to reiterate that delegations who voted in favor of this resolution voted in favor because we fully support democracy, but not those concepts that are not consensually agreed and are not being part and parcel of domestic laws of numerous countries, as has been demonstrated with the tabling of amendments and their adoption. I would also like to highlight that any concept which is being voted is never considered consensual language.